Hello, I'm Dr. Marty Klein with another video quickie. Today I want to talk about how some people make sex harder than it needs to be. Some people would rather be right than enjoy sex. They demand that sex be a certain way, no matter how narrow or unrealistic or pointless that is. Or they insist that bodies, their own or their partners, can only be eligible for desire or pleasure if they're nearly perfect. Or they refuse to acknowledge that their partner has changed, even if it's a change that they've been demanding. Yes, if you want to see human stubbornness and irrationality on display, be a sex therapist. Here are some of the common problems that I deal with over and over every year. Notice how in each instance, the person's struggle is mostly of their own making. I'm sympathetic, of course, but each of these people could improve their sexual relationship without their partner doing anything different. What else could you ask for? Let's start with a woman who insists that she's terribly unattractive no matter what her partner says. While there are plenty of men with poor body image, most of the extreme cases are women. There's no reasoning with such women. Neither numbers, nor photos, nor a mirror increases their ability to see themselves more accurately. I've worked with couples in which the boyfriend or the husband had literally never seen the woman completely nude. For such couples, sex is frustrating and off-putting for him, terrifying and shameful for her. Pleasure? Intimacy? Totally impossible under these circumstances. My approach with people who can't see their bodies accurately is not to try to convince them that they're actually attractive or normal, because that never works. First, I send them to a physician that they trust. The doctor's authority sometimes can break through the distortions. Mostly, I talk about how physical attractiveness is probably not as important for your partner's sexual satisfaction as you think, and that if your mate likes looking at you, he or she is not asking you for your opinion. I enjoy how you look is not an invitation for a referendum. By the way, calling this condition body dysmorphia generally isn't helpful, as that's usually taken to mean you have no responsibility for your bizarre beliefs. Of course, if someone has another mental health issue, an anxiety disorder, borderline personality traits, something like that, focusing on that is usually necessary and frequently helpful. Now let's talk about a man who says that he needs sex so frequently that he has a right to have sex with his wife even if she is not in the mood. Sometimes I want to gesture toward a male patient. Hello, it's 1953. They want their sexual attitudes back. Every year, I must say to at least a dozen different men, no, you don't need sex every day. You want sex every day. I then follow with, every adult wants things they don't get, and apparently this is one of yours. Now, I understand that enjoyable sex every day or two can be a glorious part of life. And the truth is, very few people with jobs and children have that. I do think that as a society, we should spend more time grieving the loss of our young adult sex lives. But grieving is different than whining. And it is most certainly different than pressuring and criticizing a partner, which is what I see far more often. It puts a woman in such a difficult position when her mate says, I desire you so much, and it's so painful not to have you. How can you possibly deny me? It can be surprisingly difficult to break through a man's narcissism and insecurity to help him find a kernel of empathy for his partner. These guys tend to frame their desire as a compliment to their partner, but they're really not seeing their partner's humanity, only an opportunity for their own gratification and validation. Eventually, a lot of these men insist that they're married to someone who doesn't like sex. This misinterpretation makes things worse, of course. Sooner or later, unfortunately, these guys will be right. Now, I also work with people who insist that their male partner orgasm every time, preferably inside of them. I've known a few gay men who really enjoyed a partner coming inside them, but the people who are really upset if their partner doesn't do this are almost all women. Why the upset? Usually because it means they think you aren't really excited with me or you don't find me sexy enough. Like most women unable to see their bodies accurately, maintaining this fantasy, if you don't come inside me, you're unhappy with me, requires a lack of trust in one's partner. I've seen men beg their girlfriends to believe that they're satisfied without an orgasm or with coming in her hand or his hand. When women refuse to believe this, I ask if they think he's lying to her or to himself. I've seen women destroy otherwise enjoyable sex lives with this one sorrowful belief. Finally, let's talk about a man who can only get excited with a woman who looks like his ultimate fantasy. Everyone's entitled to their fantasies, of course, and these certainly don't need to be politically correct. In fact, the most common sexual fantasies of both men and women are of inappropriate partners or inappropriate activities, or both. But every grown-up needs to know that real life rarely looks like fantasy, whether the subject is our careers, children, health, recreation, or our sex lives. And exhibit number one regarding that is our partners, the people we actually want to be with, as opposed to the people we want to pick up in a bar or on an airplane, will have personalities and histories and emotional needs, and maybe some physical pain. What they generally won't have is excellent lighting, hair and makeup stylists on 24-hour call, and a winning ticket in the genetic beauty lottery. And while they may be 25 years old when we meet them, sooner or later they won't be 25 and they never will be again. And yet I work with men who are chronically dissatisfied with their wife's weight or their refusal to wear high heels while washing dishes. A guy who has trouble getting erect with a woman with a few stretch marks or whose breasts are two slightly different sizes has a serious problem. Sometimes the real problem is a power struggle in the relationship. Sometimes it's a guy who refuses to grow up. I always wonder who these guys think they're going to partner with when they're 50 or 60. There just aren't enough 25-year-old supermodels to go around, you know. Well, thanks for joining me. I publish one of these video quickies every couple of weeks, so if you like this one, scroll to the bottom of your screen, click the red subscribe button, and you'll get pinged every time I do another one. I'm Dr. Marty Klein. Thanks for joining me.